Hello, I am the Silver Wheel Witch. Welcome to my channel. I am going to be doing a tag today that is called hashtag only 10 decks. So I believe this one was originally created by Katie Flowers, and I'm really excited to do this one today. It was really hard to choose just 10 decks. That I actually have 4 other bonus decks that I'll show you at the end that I just really wouldn't want to get rid of either. I'd really love to keep them if I had to choose to only keep 10. So with that, I've got a good mix here today of some tarot decks and oracle decks and a Lenormand deck. I chose my favorite Lenormand deck right at the moment to share with you all, and I think we'll go ahead and start with that one. So currently my favorite Lenormand deck is the Epic Light Lenormand. I bought this one on Etsy, and I believe you can still find it on there. They've got a really nice page. And this deck is actually an original deck, and it has a supplement deck in here as well. If I can pull it out. Let's see here. So I actually have both, and I love using them together in different ways. Comes with a really nice bag. And these are the additional cards. We'll go over those in a minute. But the deck is just absolutely gorgeous. So it embraces the light. And it's just really a beautiful, beautiful Lenormand deck. It's just absolutely gorgeous. I love the artwork, these cards, the colors. I mean, these colors are just absolutely gorgeous. Look how beautiful that is. They're like neutrals, but vibrant at the same time. It's just stunning. So that is the original deck, your traditional Lenormand cards. And then there are 36 additional cards that are unique. And there is an online booklet that you can get. Oh, and here is actually the information. So I will give you a close-up of that. Okay. And these cards are just stunning. Like I said, she does have a booklet that will give you some definitions, meanings of these cards. But, I mean, just the symbolism as well that are in them, it is just stunning. Definitely my favorite Lenormand deck at this time. Look at that doorway. I have a thing for doorways though, and tea. Just, I mean, everything about this deck. And I'm still playing with different ways to work these cards in. Sometimes I mix them all together. Sometimes I do like a layered reading with the original deck and then this deck as well. You know, so it's 2 cards basically instead of 1 for each position, 1 from each deck. I'm still playing with different ways, and it's just absolutely a gorgeous deck, and I love it. And now that we're getting closer to the lighter half of the year here, I plan on using this one a lot more. Look at, I mean, isn't that just gorgeous? I love the symbolism in these cards. So that is, again, the Epic Light Lenormand. And I believe that's the person's last name. I'm not even going to try to say that because I will embarrassingly butcher it. I'll give you a close-up one more time of the information in case anybody's interested in that deck. And I did get it on Etsy. Gorgeous deck. So if I had to pick only 10 decks, I would definitely want at least 1 Lenormand deck and this would be the one that I hold on to. Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and go into some of the tarot decks. I will say that the tarot decks that I would keep are pretty standard, very common decks, but definitely the Wild Unknown. I love doing Celtic crosses with this deck specifically. For some reason, it reads so well for me with the Celtic cross with this deck. And I'm not really sure actually what version I have. I know there are quite a few versions of this deck out there. For such simple, well, I guess I feel like the artwork is a little simple, but it's got a lot going on at the same time, so I wouldn't really know how to describe it, but I really love the mix with the black and white and the color, and you know, it looks like it's just pen drawn artwork. I'm sure that's got a style name that I'm not aware of, but I love it. Gorgeous deck. And so that is one tarot deck that I would definitely hang on to. That is the Wild Unknown Tarot by Kim Krantz. I believe you can still get that one just like on Amazon. The next deck that I would keep is the Druid Craft Tarot deck by Philip and Stephanie Cargam, illustrated by Will Worthington. It is just absolutely a great deck. And it's got a nice booklet. I like the way the booklet's laid out in this one. For example, here's all the aces are paired together on one page. All the princess cards for all the suits are on one page. I like the way that's laid out. Again, love the colors, the browns, the yellows, they're vibrant, but at the same time, there's some neutral colors in here, muted colors, I guess. By no means an expert on colors, but I love the colors in this deck. Color scheme is right up my alley. And the artwork, again, is just beautiful. So much symbolism. It's just stunning. This deck also has some really good basic keywords and, you know, 2 to 3 sentences for the cards. So when I was first learning tarot, I really liked using this deck. So that is definitely another keeper. Alrighty, and sticking with tarot decks, I have 2 more. And the next one is a newer one to me. I think I've only had this one maybe a year. And it is the Light Seers Tarot. Again, I know all these decks are very popular, well-known decks, but of all the decks I have, these are definitely the ones that I would keep. This deck is beautiful. It's got a very nice chunky book. The book has upright reversal meanings. It's got about a full page worth to almost 2 pages worth of information in there. The backs are gorgeous. Again, with this one's got some greens and blues. This deck is like, if you just, I mean, look at all the color in that. It's like a rainbow. I absolutely love the amount and vibrancy of the colors in this deck. So I'll go ahead and show you some of these. again, I really like, I don't know if this is, some of these I guess are upside down. I didn't go through the decks first. I just really love the colors in this deck. And the cards, they are a little bit more busy compared to some decks. I know some people love that or hate it, and for me, really, it just depends on the deck. This one, for me, it works really well. This is definitely my favorite card in the whole deck right there. Love that. So much symbolism, too, in there that it's just, it's amazing. I love the colors. Love the artwork. And really the messages that I just get from this deck are, you know, they're really no nonsense, but at the same time, they're not gonna like slap you in the face either. They just kind of get to the point and don't really hold back. So, another one of my favorite cards. And this one, of course, I always look at the death cards in decks because that card stalks me forever. Also the Chariots, that is a gorgeous Chariot card. That Star card. I mean, it's just, it's a beautiful deck. What can I say? Yep, definitely one of my favorites. A great double card too. The symbolism, the readings I get from this deck. It's a lot too. Like, I don't know how to explain. Like, some decks, the symbolism I get from them is like keywords, right? Like, I'll get an image or a picture or a keyword or something pop into my head. But this deck is like almost like a story. You know, it has a lot to say, and it just doesn't really hold back. So, love that. All right. So that again is the Light Seers Tarot. And that one is by Chris Ann. And looks like this one, my version here, is a Hay House. Their boxes are always nice and sturdy if you get Hay House versions of decks, I notice. So it's always good. Okay, so last keeper, one of my faves, is the Wildwood Tarot. And this one is illustrated by Will Worthington, and it is by Mark Ryan and John Matthews. It is definitely a stunning deck. This one comes with a nice full-size book, which I do enjoy. Oops, sorry about the camera there. I can get this out of the box. There we go. This particular deck actually has some of its own unique symbolism in here. It's kind of got its own thing going on, which I really quite enjoy. I do really like working with Celtic symbolism. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of information for each card. It has some keywords down here, a little quick little what it is right here, and then it's got like the description and the meaning and also some reading points. So very in-depth book, which is really good because, like I said, you know, it's got some unique perspectives on the cards for this one. I love using this one to do like any kind of tarot readings with ancestral work involved. This reads really well with that. And while it does actually have this on the back, copyright by Will Worthington, it has it on both sides, so at least you can read it reversed still without any issues if you read reversals. And again, another deck. I just really love the color schemes of all these decks. I'm not realizing that until right now, that apparently that's a thing for me, the colors. And again, this is another deck that's kind of busy. There's a lot going on, but I like having a really good balance between decks that have a lot going on and decks that are simpler. It works well for me. So just go ahead and show you some of these cards. They're absolutely gorgeous. Will Worthington's artwork is amazing. Again, another deck that speaks in volumes. It's kind of comes out like a story almost when you're reading it. For me anyways, I know it's different for everybody. I love that card right there. This one too. I mean, they're just gorgeous. Beautiful cards. That is one of my favorite cards. I love the symbolism. The imagery in that deck is just, in this card, it's just gorgeous. All right. So that is the Wildwood Tarot by Mark Ryan and John Matthews with the artwork by Will Worthington. Definitely a favorite. So that is all the tarot decks I have. I happen to read with a lot of oracle decks as well. So with that, I'm going to say, let's start here. This is my favorite of all time crystal reading cards. I have several decks that deal with stones, because I do like to work with gemstones. And this one is by far my favorite. The backs technically are not reversal. I actually typically, while I do read with reversals, sometimes, a lot of times, this deck I don't. Just haven't felt the need to. And the book is in black and white, but it gives quite a bit of information. So it gives you the crystal color, the related chakra, crystal medicine. It gives you some quick bullet points in case you want some quick meanings. And then it also gives you an oracle reading message from the Crystal Diva, which is great. I love the messages in this book that embody the energy that these stones have, and it's a beautiful deck. I always am blown away by the messages that I get when I pull cards. I like using these sometimes for my daily pulls. And they do have the name of the stone with a beautiful picture, and then also a keyword, which is nice. I like keywords if it's like one keyword. But anyhow, go ahead and show you some of these. And they do have on top if it's considered a master teacher card, depending on the stone. The pictures are beautiful, the colors are beautiful, the messages are just, they hit deep. They really do, and it's always really just meaningful messages that really get to the heart of the matter of what you've got going on, whether it's a question or a lesson that's being learned. It's just a beautiful deck. I just love the way it reads. it's like some decks just really speak to you, and most of these decks that I've got here today, that's really what they do. Aside from being aesthetically pleasing, more importantly, they just really speak to me. So there you have it. That is the Healing Oracle Crystal Reading Cards by Rachel Charman. And a lot of these decks, since they are fairly common, I believe a lot of them you can get on Amazon, wherever you're at. Most of them, aside from the Lenormand deck, I know that you have to get that one on Etsy, I believe. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and take a look at this deck here. So I love this deck, Vibrational Energy cards. She's got some other decks. I've actually had some others and gifted them to other people. The artwork in here is beautiful, though it's typically not my normal style that I lean towards. But this particular deck of hers, the Vibrational Energy, I feel like it really does that. The cards in here represent different states of energy very well. And again, even though this is typically not my preferred style of artwork, I actually really like the artwork in this deck. And the colors, again, I mean, they're soft, they're beautiful. And they have a simple keyword on most of them. This one's got a few words. Some of them have a couple words. Well, I guess more of them than I realized have more than one word. So a keyword or a phrase. But it's just really, really a beautiful deck. It reads very beautifully. Like, if you want to do a reading for, like, what's the energy of the day going to be, or what type of energy, you know, would be best for you to embody at a certain time, or what energy do you need to be aware of? Those types of questions are what I like to ask. And, or maybe, you know, what type of energy is coming in, or if you're trying to read the energy of something in any way, this deck is spot on. It just really is. I love this card. I mean, really, that could be anything, but it's great. And I get so many different readings from each individual card in this deck sometimes too. Like I've had with this particular card, I mean, it's got a lot going on there, but really diverse messages have come from the same card. While they all have the same key, you know, foundational energy to it, sometimes it's like each card will take this energy, and depending on how you're reading it, it looks at the same energy from multiple different angles. Yeah, if that makes sense. But there is that. Again, love the colors in this deck. The artwork in this particular deck works for me, even though most decks like this don't. So it just, I really connect with it really well. So I love this deck. It's definitely one that I would not let go of. So that is the Vibrational Energy Oracle cards by Debbie A. Anderson. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can get this one on Amazon, but I know that she has a website, so probably if you even just Googled her name or searched it online, find it. The next deck I have here is the Tao Oracle. So this is a system unto itself, loaded with information. I actually like reading this deck. If I can get the book out. for relationship readings of any kind, like whether it's personal or, you know, friends or romantic or business, or even just like the relationship between two things, just very anything that has to do with how different energies work with each other. This deck is great for that. So not even just like person to person relationship, but just the broad meaning of relationship in general, anything relating to that. This deck is great. It's got a lot of information for each card. So let's see if I can find the beginning of a card. So say here's the beginning of one card, 29. It has a paragraph to start. Actually, it's got 2 full pages. And then it also tells you what the bottom line, the second line, third line, fourth, fifth, and top, because there's 6 lines on the card and what they represent. And yeah, so this book goes into depth. I mean, it's a whole system unto itself, and the beginning does a very good job of actually explaining the Tao system, the framework, and how to use the cards. It's quite intense. I most often read these actually intuitively. The cards are absolutely gorgeous. They got that nice matte finish. And so there is like specific meanings to these at the top here that have different color combinations with that yin and yang. And then you've got these symbols down here that have meanings, as well as these bars, which they give separate meaning for in the book. Most of the time how I read these cards though is I intuitively read off of the image, and it tends to go very well with the keywords at the bottom of the card. So, you know, there is a lot on these. It may not be for everybody, but it's such a unique deck that reads very well. The messages in here are very diverse. The cards go pretty deep in their meaning and symbolism, and they're gorgeous. Definitely one of my favorite decks. This is actually my least favorite image in the whole deck. I don't know why, it just is. It's a gorgeous picture, but yeah, I don't know. It's not my favorite. But I mean, that aside, this deck it's stunning. Love that one. All right, so that is the Tao Oracle by, looks like Mediva Padma. Let me show you that up close. And I want to say you can probably get this one on Amazon. I think that's where I got this one. I've had this one for quite some time though, so I don't really remember exactly where I purchased it from, but there is that. All right, and 2 more decks for the 10 decks that I would keep. And I have a couple of Colette Baron Reed decks. This right here was actually my very first deck altogether. And the cards are a bit glossy for my taste, but they don't really stick, so that's good, and they don't slip too much either. I absolutely love the backs on these. And I love the symbolism throughout the deck. The whole concept, the Enchanted Map, is just, I love it. It's great. Now these cards are quite busy, but then there again, I read fairly well with that most of the time. They do have a keyword. They're very mystical, and I just really enjoy these images. This deck for me can be very blunt, like, yep, here it is, that's what's going on, leave it or take it, but deal with it. Kind of pretty much how this deck reads for me. Sometimes it can be a little bit softer than that. I mean, the images are definitely softer than that, but it's like, yeah, you want the answer to it? Here's your answer. Doesn't really matter if you like it or not. It's just, that's how it is. Very direct. Beautiful deck, though. Yeah, I mean, I actually haven't read with this one in a little bit of time. I need to pull it back out again. But it really does read well. And again, the colors, the artwork, it's just, I guess I love gorgeous work on these decks. I didn't realize how much the color schemes and the beauty of the cards really made a difference for me. But looking at all these decks now that I am keeping, I mean, they're just absolutely beautiful. And they all read very differently. I mean, I think that might be the same for most people. One of the benefits to having multiple decks is that they kind of have their own attitude, you know, their own personality. This here is my all-time favorite Oracle deck. If someone said you can only keep one Oracle deck ever, it would be this one. This deck speaks to me so deeply and intimately. It just really hits home every single time. And it's just gorgeous. And it is the Wisdom of Avalon Oracle cards. Again, it is a Colette Baron Reid book. This is actually the second deck that I ever owned. My third deck was, I believe it was the Gateway to the Divine Tarot was the first tarot deck I ever owned, was the third deck I owned. I don't have that one here. Another great deck. But, you know, the actual way the cards are laid out is not necessarily a favorite to me, the way they've got it up here, and that's where the keywords are, and these borders. I love that they give credit to the artists, but the way they are on the picture, not necessarily my favorite. But what I love about this deck is really the messages. It is like talking to a friend. They're just really good balance. I like that even though it's an Oracle deck, you've got positive and negative cards in here. I really like that. I do sometimes like a good hug deck, but honestly, not usually what I read with, because these days, mostly if I'm feeling like I need a hug deck, then it means I need to meditate. So, yeah, I usually like having a good balance in all my decks. you can separate these out into categories. Like it's got like the novice, the queen, and then it's got these other markers like truth and letting go. And then there's like 4 fairy cards in there, and I know there's different ways you can work with it, but honestly I use it just as one solid deck, and definitely my favorite card right there. Jumped out to me when I first opened the box. And you know, I just like reading with this. Actually, it pairs. Actually, this deck is the deck I like to pair, believe it or not, with the Wild Unknown. Wouldn't necessarily think those would go together very well, but I like to do a Celtic cross with the Wild Unknown and do an overall message for the entire reading of the Celtic cross, like a final card, using this deck. And I mean, it's spot on every single time. So there is that. Beautiful, beautiful cards. Okay, so that is the Wisdom of Avalon Oracle cards by Colette Baron Reed. And I'm not sure who the artist is on this one. I would like to try and mention the artists. I feel like the artists do need more recognition on the decks. I'll give you guys a close-up of that. I think there were several for this book. Okay, so those are my 10 decks, but I have 4 more decks here that I want to share with you guys that are 4 more decks that I just really wouldn't want to live without. One of the first ones here is the Earthly Souls and Spirits Oracle by Terry Foss and Sarah Foss Robinson. So this is one of her original versions, I think, or maybe the second version, where the backs of the cards are actually, oh, I've got a card stuck in here, let's see. The backs are the artwork photos, I think, that her daughter had taken. So they did like a collaboration on the deck. And it actually is quite nice. I like having the different moon phases and images. So like there are quite a few cards that'll have, you know, there's a handful of images that are spread out. Like there might be several with that backing and several with that backing. So sometimes I'll shuffle them and pull it by the backing of the card. So I actually kind of like that. It's unique. Comes with a paper fold out, the version I have, with like the key word on the deck and just some meanings. But mostly with these I read intuitively based on the imagery. So with that, let me go ahead and show you. I do believe she's on Etsy, and she still has versions of this deck that comes out, I do believe. But this version might be slightly different from the others. I think she updates them as time goes on. And again, look at all the colors on this. I love that. I actually might try to pair this one. I haven't tried to pair this one with the Light Seers Oracle, but looking at it now, they might both do really well together. So let me go ahead and show you some of these cards. It didn't make it into my top 10 just because the other ones are such heavy hitters that I use all the time. And this one I really bust out for the darker half of the year usually, though I'm really tempted to play with this one in addition to the Light Seers Tarot. I've got this inkling right now that I just think they might really go well together. So we'll see. It is a beautiful deck. I love her artwork. Absolutely love her artwork. It's just stunning. And I love the keywords that she chooses for the images. I feel like they go very well Very well matched for the symbolism in the cards. I mean, look how gorgeous that is. Just beautiful. So that is the Earthly Souls and Spirits Oracle by Terry Foss. And the backings were done by, I believe that's her daughter, Sarah Foss Robinson. Okay, the next deck that I would definitely want to keep is the Faerie Enchantments Oracle by Ian Daniels. They're actually Magick divination cards, very much Celtic theme, and these cards are stunning. I absolutely love them. And they didn't make it into my top 10 simply because, I mean, they're just not really a workhorse deck. I mean, if I could only keep 10, but oh my gosh, I would really, really not want to lose this deck. It is just, his artwork is gorgeous. And then the backs give you the name of the image on the front and 3 keywords and a bin rune, and then also correspondence. So like this one here is for Methanwi, and basically he's associated with the goat and the ash and the snipe and the ring, so it gives you the correspondences. And I believe he's got like, sorry, make sure I'm in the frame here for you all. Like the top, middle, and bottom words have specific meanings if you go through his book. I particularly like to pull a card if I'm working with that specific, Celtic deity, and use the card on my altar because it's just really, his artwork is just, it's gorgeous. So I believe I bought this one on a Kickstarter. I love this symbolism of Arian Rod. I work a lot with Arian Rod, and this is one of my faves in his deck. I believe he has a website, though. I'm not really sure. But I'm sure that if you Google or just search him online, Ian Daniels, Faerie Enchantments, I know that it will come up because he does a lot of other artwork and stuff too. So, love this deck. And I've got 2 more for you all. I have the Mystic Sisters Oracle deck. This is definitely one of my favorite Oracle decks, but again, it's got very limited use. Like I just don't use it all the time for everything. It has like a half a page worth, and it's goddess themed, and the colors and the artwork are gorgeous, and the messages are beautiful. Even though it's only got like half a page in the booklet, a lot of times, again, as with many of my decks, I like to read intuitively, so I get messages from the images, and they're gorgeous. Really love this deck. The colors really get me on this. It's just that again, these decks are ones I wouldn't want to lose or get rid of, but for my top 10, I chose the decks that I really actually work with a lot. I'll tend to use this one for some more deep, personal, feminine energy type work. Goddess energy. A lot of really good symbolism in these cards. And one more deck, and that is the, of course, can't go without the Animal Spirit by Kim Krans. Basically the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck, all animal cards and symbolism. I work a lot with spirit animals, animal symbolism, and I really like the work she's done in this deck. And again, it's got that artwork that is just like the Wild Unknown, but it's all animals. And if I had to pick one animal deck out of the animal themed decks I have to keep, it would definitely be this one. Though I really don't, ironically, I don't really use this one with the Wild Unknown. I tend to use it separately for animal energy, animal reading, working with the energies of different animals. And I will sometimes use these as overall readings with other tarot decks, but I haven't really found a specific deck that I pair it with specifically, so oftentimes it'll be one card reading, one card messages based on the animal symbolism. So I will say this version I got, the cards aren't necessarily great. They kind of warp, which is kind of a bummer, but since I really mostly use it for one card readings, it's not that big of a deal. But that is it. That is what I have for you guys. That is my top 10 Tarot Oracle Lenormand decks and 4 bonus decks that I would definitely not let go of. So there you have it, and I hope you have a blessed day. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.